Hey, what's going on, guys? Hope you're all doing awesome because we've got a fresh update to talk about for Pokémon Champions. So first thing you need to know is this update is heavily focused on bug fixes and polish. Basically cleaning up the experience after launch issues started popping up across different parts of the game. Uh, and if you've been playing consistently, chances are you've already run into at least one of these problems without even knowing what caused it. Let's start with something that sounds minor, but actually matters more than you'd think. And that's the issue with Leech Seed, because the explanation for the move was straight up incorrect. And for newer players especially, that can be confusing when you're trying to understand how damage over time works and how much healing you're getting from it. So now that's been corrected, which means what you read is finally going to match what actually happens in battle. Then there's the tutorial problem where certain Pokemon had the wrong gender listed. And yeah, at first that might sound like just a visual mistake, but tutorials are supposed to teach you the basics properly. So even something like that can throw off newer players or just make the game feel less polished overall. So that's now fixed too. Now, this next one is where things start getting more gameplay focused. And honestly, this bug was pretty frustrating if you ran into it because it involved Mega Evolution. And what would happen is if you were checking move details, moved your cursor over Mega Evolution and then pressed the B button, you could get stuck in a situation where you just couldn't select a move anymore, basically locking your decision-making in battle, which is a huge problem in a competitive focused game like this. So thankfully that's been resolved and you should now be able to navigate that menu without getting stuck. And speaking of competitive impact, this next fix is probably one of the biggest ones in the entire patch. And that's the issue with the Unnerve ability. Because before this update, Unnerve wasn't properly preventing certain Pokemon from eating berries if they had specific abilities, which completely breaks how that ability is supposed to work. Since Unnerve is designed to shut down item-based recovery or effects in battle, so if that wasn't working correctly, it could seriously affect strategy, especially in high-level matches. But now it's been fixed and should behave the way players expect. Another important fix that might not be immediately obvious, unless you're really paying attention to battle mechanics, is the way speed changes for upheld items were being handled, because previously those changes weren't properly reflected in the order in which abilities activate. And in a game where timing and turn order can completely decide the outcome of a match, that's a pretty big deal. So now that's been corrected, meaning the battle flow should feel a lot more consistent and accurate to what the mechanics are supposed to be. And then on top of all that, the update also addresses some additional issues related to networking and visual appearance during battles, which again might not sound like the biggest thing, but when you're playing online matches or just trying to have a smooth battle experience, things like visual glitches or connection-related hiccups can really break immersion. So having those cleaned up is definitely a good sign. Moving forward overall, this update is really about stabilizing the game and making sure that the core battle experience actually works the way it's supposed to, especially since this game is built around competitive play and strategy. And honestly, this kind of patch is exactly what you want to see early on after release, because it shows that the developers are paying attention to the issues players are reporting and actively working to fix them. So yeah, while you're not getting new content here, what you are getting is a much more reliable and consistent experience. And that's something that's going to matter a lot more in the long run, especially if you're planning to stick with the game and really get into the competitive side of things.